fresh out of quarantine?
2 hours ago, yeah. Good to be. It's amazing how much of a mind warp that is, right? Even though you're in a beautiful 5-star hotel, can mess with you if you let it. But I'm glad to be free as a bird, Johnny.
Does it end up being like just the ultimate study session for you, though? Is that how you get through quarantine?
And I think I said this to you guys last time, right? It's a play-by-play guy's dream, and you know that all too well. You want to lock my analysts in a room and make them prepare for 48 hours? I'm all for it. But my quarantine workouts did not go all that well. We shut those down after like 25 minutes. So, yeah, all my fighter cards are done for January 16th, and came here a few days early to do the ABC show, which was not initially scheduled. So I think for a lot of us on the live production crew, we're just looking to get this first one in the can and get this week started.
I was going to ask you, 2021, like the return to network television. I know you industry leader and all that good stuff, and pay-per-views are massive, but network television, is it still special? Does it give you a little something extra?
Absolutely, and I think ABC really rings true with a lot of combat sports fans, as special as the Fox deal was. ABC is boxing, it's wide world of sports, it's historic, and certainly for a guy who cut his television teeth, as I did in Bristol, Connecticut at ESPN, it's nice to be under that banner again. I think my big question is, how did this come together? I don't know. And when are we going to be on ABC again? Maybe when we're not going head-to-head with an NFL playoff game, right? So I think we're going to do a good number, but it's exciting. I'm not getting my gold Wide World of Sports jacket, unfortunately, but maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Talk about fans being back in the building. For you, we've watched this whole thing progress, right? Like, you've gotten used to the new normal of not having crowds.
Yeah.
Is that going to change the dynamic or the feel for you?
I can't wait. I plan to go address as many of the crowd members as I can before the show to thank them for spending the money and to tell them to try to make noise as if they're 3 people. But I think this atmosphere is such that it's going to be a loud crowd regardless. And I can't wait to have that support. It's not a crutch. It's not something we lean on, but it's definitely a performance enhancer for a play-by-play guy. When Jan Blachowicz won the light heavyweight title, and I think the call was something like, Poland, your guy got it done. It'd be nice to have some support there, especially when a guy wins a title. So for a fight of the magnitude of Holloway Kattar or McGregor Poirier 2, I just feel like we need fans, and thankfully they'll be in the building, masks or otherwise.
Talk about Holloway Kattar. I know, more than just X's and O's, you like to break down the story of it as well. Here's what I find interesting, right? It seems like Kattar's the guy on the rise, but he's the older guy.
Right.
And Holloway's is he still around? Is he still not the same guy? So, is that the story that you're seeing, is like where Max still stands versus is Calvin the real deal?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting storyline and certainly part of the narrative. Calvin Kattar has been saying for years, put some respect on my name. I turned pro in 2007. He did go dark 2014, 2015, did not compete at all, and I think that has maybe contributed to his longevity a little bit. But this dude's been a pro for almost 15 years. So I think this is a huge opportunity for Kattar. But I did say after Max Holloway was essentially hosed against Alexander Volkanovski his last time out, it's going to be hard to beat Max in that next fight. I just thought he made so many good requisite adjustments for that Volkanovski rematch. I certainly thought he won that fight, and I think it's going to take Calvin Kattar's best performance over 25 minutes. Championship experience and 5-round territory is not anything new for Max Holloway. He went 25 hard with Dustin Poirier, so I expect big things from Max Holloway, and certainly as a lifelong Bostonian, very curious to see what Calvin Kattar can do with the showcase.
I was going to ask you turning up the Boston a little bit, or do you have to keep it settled down?
Oh, we'll bottle that Boston for sure. But it's exciting. Really not since Kenny Florian have we had a guy who has legitimate championship aspirations. And now we have 2 guys in Rob Font and Calvin Kattar, and plenty of other guys that Tyson Chartier is developing under that New England Cartel banner. So we're excited. All I can tell you is that if Calvin Kattar is ever able to break through, I will go to the mayor's office in the city of Boston and make sure that he gets the duck boat treatment like the Patriots and the Red Sox and everybody else get, because he would certainly be deserving of that treatment,
I want to ask you about the co-main, Matt Brown and Carlos Condit. Obviously, everybody's excited about that. We talked to him yesterday. Matt kind of threw out there, this might be my last fight. Who knows? Carlos revealed it's the last fight on his contract. So have you spoken to those guys yet? Have you gotten to feel at all that these veterans might be at the end of their run?
They certainly didn't want to go down that road with us. We had our fighter meetings yesterday. Matt Brown, as many of you know, contemplated retirement during the training camp for Diego Sanchez in 2017. but was so thrilled with the way his body responded that obviously he's been able to prolong his career. I asked him about his active schedule, and he said, well, it hasn't been all that active, but I looked at December of 2019, May of 2020. He's in a much more active schedule than he has been recently. Condit, I thought it was interesting. He said he has more enthusiasm for this fight actually the third time around, and part of that is because the hay's in the barn. He feels like he's had 2 training camps for this guy. He's worked on things that he believes are holes in Matt Brown's game and didn't feel like he had to really rework all of that stuff. So these guys are just good eggs, man, and fathers, and I'm just excited to see what they can do. It's crazy. Matt Brown was such a huge part of those Fox shows, it felt like. And now, of course, kind of fitting that when we make our ABC debut that he's getting that co-main event treatment.
Nice. Last one for me. I just want to ask, I know you do as much research as anybody. Stories on the undercard, the prelims, are there names maybe that are new to us, or just a great story you unearthed behind the scenes, something that that we should key on or that you're dialed in on?
It's a good question, Johnny. I mean, for me, it's always exciting to talk to the UFC newcomers, especially a fighter like Jocelyn Edwards, who 10 days ago was on the outside of the UFC looking in, and now she's making her UFC debut. It was interesting because she had an LFA title fight a few years ago, 2018, against Sarah Alpar, and her coach cut her in the back before the fight. Not ideal, right? So she ended up losing a split decision. Had she won that fight, she would have already been in the UFC. So I'm excited to see what she can do against Wu Yanan. But the story that jumps off of this card for me, undeniably, is Santiago Ponzinibbio. Might be the best welterweight in the world right now. He's won 7 in a row. But man, it was the arm injury, the freak arm injury on the Ultimate Fighter Brazil Season 2, and now the staph infection and bacterial issues. That man has been through hell. Lost his rankings, so he's got a serious point to prove. And you know how tough the leech is, but I would not want to be locked in a cage with Santiago Ponzinibbio on Saturday night. Of that, I can be sure.
I think Max Holloway minus 135 is fair odds. Kattar plus 115.
So it's hard for me to get too predictive, as you know, because I'm calling the fight, but I do believe Max Holloway should be the favorite, and I think it was a little bit more pronounced 5 or 6 days ago, so perhaps that suggests that they're getting some money on Calvin Kattar. As you guys know, they're trying to set a betting line that will command two-way action, right? The more bets they can get on both sides of the equation, the better the sports books would do, but most cappers that I have talked to, just being candid, they feel like Max Holloway at minus 135 is pretty juicy, just given the fact that he's been north of minus 200 for most of his featherweight fights in the UFC.
And then outside of the 2 main events on Wednesday, Saturday, outside of this card, are there any other fights that you're looking forward to?
Gosh, I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches, right? I mean, certainly the Michael Chandler debut is interesting for me. He was at Fight Island, obviously, back in October, didn't get the chance to compete. And I'm curious to talk to him because I kind of get this sense that this Hooker fight isn't like the dream sequence for him in terms of an opponent for his UFC debut. And for Dan Hooker, you know, he's been really hard on himself for that Poirier performance. I think we all as fans gobbled that fight up, but he felt like his performance defensively left a lot to be desired. So I know that's probably an easy answer, but that one jumps off the card. And for JoJo too against Jessica Eye, just to see if she can break through and finally get a chance to fight for the title. So a lot of meat on the bone, and you know, my focus is on January 16th. I try not to look too far ahead, but we're excited for the 23rd for sure.
When you're doing this many events in such a short stretch, how does your preparation differ than normal? I know on Wednesday you're doing the desk, and then you're doing commentary for the other 2.
It's not ideal, you know. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the NFL guys that do 17 straight weeks. You know, a lot of our play-by-play guys have never even done a back-to-back, and I think that's just the nature of our beast. There's so much that goes into the preparation, and if you just want to play a numbers game, right, say 26 fighters times 3, 75 fighters, if you're giving everybody an hour, that's 75 hours, that's 2 work weeks, right? I try to give every fighter an hour, and in a back-to-back situation like this with another show sandwiched in between, it's impossible. So I'll do the best I can to turn the page to Chiesa Magny on Monday, but I got to start my UFC 257 cards on Tuesday. So I'll be sort of double dipping a little bit. And this will be the most challenging fight week that I have ever gone through. To have other things on my plate during a pay-per-view week is something that I've never experienced. So I guess you could judge me after the fact, but my anxiety, as I've said many times before, is all in the preparation, right? Like you think, oh, maybe a little performance anxiety calling a Conor McGregor fight. It's all in the preparation. Once I get to fight day, the anxiety goes away. But what kept me up last night is the fact that I haven't started prepping UFC 257, and it's fucking 9 days away, you know?
You say anxiety, do you get nervous?
just about the preparation. I get excited to perform. Sometimes when I'm working the desk, because I'm an old guy now and I've been on a television desk for almost 20 years, I wish I could get some of those nerves back, because I think they can enhance your performance to get those butterflies. Certainly when I'm doing a pay-per-view open, I have something going on in my body. I don't know if it's adrenaline or nerves, but thankfully when you get older and you get sort of the necessary repetitions, you're able to channel it in the right way. But, I remember when I did my first television audition at ESPN, and I couldn't sit still, man. I was like, I thought they were going to send me back to radio right away. But thankfully I have the experience that I can lean on at this stage of my career.
This is your 10th year with UFC, right?
Crazy, man. My hair went straight from black to fucking white. We went right past gray, But yeah, coming up on, it'll be 10 full years in October, and man, has it gone fast. I spent 6 years at ESPN, and it felt like it took forever. And this decade has just ripped off the calendar for me.
Yeah, because I remember talking to you for the first time when you did a dry run for Shogun Henderson.
That's right.
39.
That's right. Yeah, when I first started, they had me audition with 5 different color guys. Rich Franklin was one of them, Frank Mir, Ken Flo, obviously, Stephan Bonner. They wanted to get Randy Couture at the time, but for whatever reason, that didn't materialize. But yeah, you were probably like 18 at that time, right? Couldn't drink at a bar back then. But yeah, it's good to still be going, trying to earn it every show,
We often hear about the fighters talking about feeding off the energy of the fans. But what is it like for you guys? We're talking about the fans being back in there. Is there a noticeable difference in your performance when they're there?
I don't know if there's a difference in my performance necessarily, but there are a few logistical things that I have to think about. If you're doing a pay-per-view open in a Conor McGregor fight setting, you're competing with a crowd. So when I do my open, I have to really ramp it up so that I can sort of not be drowned out by them. But I just like having the support for a climactic moment at the end of the fight, because in this setting, we weren't laying out at all, and lay out is a TV term for basically shut the fuck up. And in this setting, we weren't really laying out at the end of a fight because there's no natural crowd sound to let bleed in there. I think the one thing the fans are going to miss is that we didn't even have to go to a corner camera to pick up that corner audio. And now with fans in the building, you're probably not going to get that sound. So you'll probably see us go to those corner cameras a little bit more often. But I can't properly describe how excited I am to have that support. I know for some of my higher profile broadcast partners, they're maybe going to miss that they could just walk to the bathroom uninterrupted. But certainly for a guy like me, I can't wait to not only have the crowd in the building, but just to go over and thank those people, because it's been a year, man,
You said you don't really get the nerves anymore, but you sort of do get some sort of energy. But do you still, like the rest of us, get that big fight feeling? So it's a Conor McGregor fight. Do you still at the beginning of the night go, shit, like it is big time?
That's what it is. And I think you nailed it, right? And I oftentimes will say on a broadcast, and I think some people are sick of me saying this, but there's nothing like the tension of a UFC main event or a championship main event. I guess the closest thing that I could compare it to would be if like the Patriots were playing in the Super Bowl. My appetite is non-existent, and I'm just anxious because my team is about to compete in a setting that is hugely important to me just as a fan. So I get those nerves just because of the magnitude of the sporting event. But as soon as they touch gloves, you just focus on the job, and I got a lot of things to worry about, so I try to keep my focus there.
If there's one fight that you've called over the past 10 months that you wish you could have had fans there for to help with your call or help with the climax of the fight, which fight would it have been?
It's a great question. I certainly would have liked Petr Yan to be able to have a crowd. I think any of the newly crowned champions, Jan Blachowicz, Davison Figueiredo, all these guys won titles in a really major way and in an environment in which they didn't quite have that support. I mean, I know I talked about Blachowicz earlier, but could you imagine what that moment would have been like for him if we were in Poland or in an arena with 22,000 people? So I think it's the title fights more than anything else that I wish for those athletes that they had a different backdrop. And certainly for my friend Daniel Cormier, right, to have his final fight in a tiny little 25-foot octagon at the UFC Apex certainly was not ideal for him. So that one comes to mind as well.
Do you ever look back at stuff like the Masvidal knockout and think, thank God there were fans there?
Oh, no doubt about it, man. Absolutely. For sure.
Do you think any fights benefited from having no fans?
Fighters for sure. I think for Dominic Cruz to come back after 4 years away and walk out with no crowd support, I think that really hurt him. Now, he may disagree with that, but I feel like certain athletes have really benefited from competing in this atmosphere. Dustin Poirier, cool as ice, right? Talking to me and Michael Bisping when he fought Dan Hooker. So I think some athletes have really benefited. Jan Blachowicz, when we sat down in our fighter meeting, and I'm sure my bosses would agree with this, we sat down across from that guy. We knew he was going to win the fight. I mean, he was just so confident and so in the moment and just so ready to go. I think it goes both ways, but I think a lot of athletes who have competed in this setting prior, like Carlos Condit, thinks it's an advantage that he's already competed here on Fight Island, and I guess we'll find out Saturday night.
Do you think it added to the Khabib's retirement? That it was just silent when he was speaking?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that. I think we were all caught off guard by that, including DC, right, who didn't give us any inkling that maybe that would have been the end. But I think maybe it helped me navigate that moment a little bit. And, my producers, the best in the business, kind of laid back and weren't in my ear as I was trying to navigate it, because I saw him start to take his gloves off. I'm thinking, what's happening? It's 29, Khabib. It's not 30 yet, But, yeah, I think you're onto something there that maybe that made that moment a little bit more powerful.
No bets or tattoos on McGregor this time then?
No tattoo bets this time around. But I can assure you that 209 tattoo bet will not be the last. We got to get creative, though. I was thinking maybe do something for Calvin Kattar. I don't know if I want like Kattar mania across the chest, though, necessarily. But the game bred tattoo is the next one. I don't know how it's going to happen or if it's going to be on my neck or not, but that one's going down. We'll see. I don't know if we could maybe a little makeup. But, yeah, game bred tattoo is the next one for sure.
I mean, again, we talked about it earlier. You've been here 10 years in October. What's the most, influential fight that you've been able to call on you, or the greatest, I guess?
It's really hard to say because I feel like I'm shortchanging athletes when I answer this question. December 7th, 2013, Bigfoot Silva and Mark Hunt in Brisbane, Australia. I remember thinking after that fight, I hope people back in the States saw what we just watched, because that was the best heavyweight fight I had seen at the time. But the easy answer for me is Thug Rose, right? Rose Namajunas ending longtime strawweight queen Joanna Jędrzejczyk's run, and the manner in which she did it, the magnitude of that show at Madison Square Garden. I was still cutting my teeth on pay-per-view. I feel like that's the biggest moment and the most shocked I've ever been in that booth, with respect to Rose, obviously. We knew she had a shot. We just didn't expect it to go down like that. So maybe a cop-out answer, but that's always the first fight that comes to mind in terms of the most special moment of my UFC career to date.
A lot of great fighters have translated to great co-coms as well for you. Max Holloway was even saying he would yesterday.
Yeah.
Any guys in your mind that you think would be a natural fit?
Well, I would love to see Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad, get an opportunity. I just think he has a lot to offer. I think he's a guy who is married to the game. He watches all 41 UFC fights. He watches every single prelim, and I also think he's got a comedic side to him as well, so I just think Bilal would have a lot of value. Max is great. I would love to see him get an opportunity, and he's got the profile that certainly would make for an easy transition. He doesn't like to watch the fights, so I think that's his only issue is, kind of got to watch the fights if you want to do that job. But I would like to see Max get the opportunity. He certainly has a lot to offer, and his personality was jumping out of that Zoom call yesterday in our fighter meeting. So we'll see, but I know our lead producer, Zach Candido, has given a lot of different fighters opportunities over the years. Walt Harris just got an audition, which I felt was long overdue, but Bilal's the guy for me, and I'm hoping that he gets a shot.
The guys who seem to do this more and more, like I was talking to Michael Chiesa the other day, and he said that it's enhanced his fight IQ, so much. It's gave him a different outlook on the game. Have you noticed that with these guys, and maybe seen a change when they go in there, whether it's Dominic Cruz or DC or whoever?
Yes, I mean, I think Dominic might be a little bit reluctant to say that it has helped him because he's such a student of the game and he's been doing it so long that I don't know if he would take that bait. But I think almost everybody else would. I know it's helped Paul Felder immeasurably. And oftentimes when we're sitting down with fighters like Santiago Ponzinibbio, we sat down with yesterday, and he says it's been a benefit for him doing all the Spanish commentary. And just for him being around the sport, I think, is helpful, being in the atmosphere. And I think it'll actually stands to reason that it could help him on Saturday night. But I don't know how it couldn't help you. I know Dan Hardy has been very forthright about how much it has helped him. I don't know how you could argue that being around the sport and being forced, being paid to watch incessantly film, fight after fight, I don't know how it couldn't help you. Cool. Thank you, guys. Great to see y'all.
Should we be clapping? Congrats.
Hello. What's that for? How are we?
Fantastic. How are you? I guess so. Welcome back to Fight Island and welcome out of quarantine, right?
Thank you. I've been out a few days now. Yeah, my feet are wet, so it's all good.
What's the experience like being back and being on the cusp of, a huge start to 2021, right?
So normally, I think my first assignment comes at like the London show around February, March. 2020, we had Felder Hooker, so we got out early. But typically, I'm sitting there with the turn of the new year going, London show can't come quick enough. And now we're out the gates super early, and we've got like 3 cards in 7-8 days. Crazy. So yeah, I'm happy with everything going on. To focus on something as positive as this is just what the doctor ordered.
Obviously, everybody's looking forward to Conor McGregor and all that, but the first card is the return of fans, right? That's kind of a big thing. I know you didn't have to call dozens and dozens of cards without fans, but are you excited to get back in an arena with people cheering?
Yeah, I don't know how I haven't really thought about it too much because it's a limited number of fans, I guess, but it's going to be nice to look around and see new faces and the anticipation on those faces, the energy, what they're going to bring. There's a big responsibility to those fans. They've got to cheer like tenfold, right? So yeah, I'm pleased for them, right? Super pleased for them because we get to experience this. We get to be there, and we've all got it in our comments and DMs how lucky we all are to be that close to these athletes. So I'm pleased that they're going to be able to experience that as well.
The whole world situation, I haven't crunched the numbers, but it seems like it's affected you as much as anybody, right? Because you didn't get to do shows for a long time. So I'm just curious, how do you stay sharp? Do you do any dry run calls, or do you, what do you do to stay sharp when you're not getting as many reps as you used to, I imagine?
Yeah, I think I've had to deal with that quite a lot. So when I first started calling fights for the UFC, maybe 5 events a year, and I'd gone from working sometimes twice in a weekend. I was definitely out on the road every 2 weeks. I was calling fights, big fight cards as well, as in number, not stature, perhaps. No disrespect to those guys. So yeah, it was different, but then I'm doing a lot of stuff, producing work. So I'm out in the field doing things of that nature. I think what you can do, I'm not so good at sitting myself down and trying to overdub Anik or Brendan, but what I've actually been doing is learning how to learn a bit better. I'm testing myself. This sounds crazy. So I've become more of a student of trying to absorb the information a bit better, and I go about preparing my approach to fight week and how I can actively recall stuff. So I've been working a lot more on how I digest information. I'm writing things down a lot more rather than just copying and pasting things into a format. I'm testing myself on that. I'm making learning more difficult, and it really is working. So I'm focusing on what I can do, and that's just keeping the knowledge going up. But we were just talking outside. I'm not on the mats at the moment. In the UK, we can't train. So my jiu-jitsu vocabulary and MMA vocabulary from that's on the slide. So you do what you can. You do what you can.
You've got mixed assignments while you're doing different things, right? I just wonder, you start out on the desk this weekend, right? But next Wednesday, you'll be on the lead. Is it hard to not maybe cheat a little bit and start putting a little more attention on Wednesday when it's kind of your show? Versus...
I have to. I had a look ahead at what I've got planned. So I'm doing quick hits as well for the first, and done that before, and it's kind of a loose format. So that's going to be good fun. But at the same time, I'll be on the desk, so I can't be fully dressed down. We have responsibilities on the big screen. So yeah, there's so much more with the formats and the scripts that you've got to prepare for commentary than there is for a UFC live show. But I enjoy preparing as well. This isn't a chore. So I'm actually upset that I don't have more time to get into the detail of the first card, as I probably would like to if I, had the freedom of a couple of weeks.
Let me ask you about Kiss and Magny as a main event. Obviously, kind of a surprise main event. Deserving competitors, Dana, praised them. What do you see in terms of that fight, in terms of storylines and meaning and that sort of thing? Because it wasn't the main event that we expected, but it's still 2 guys that, are pretty high profile in that division.
Yeah, we go back to 2012, and they were in, we had Kiesa that was on. And then the very next Tough, that was when we were introduced to Neil Magny.
I mean, Mike's had a crazy journey. Like all the stuff he's been through against some real veterans, some of the submission battles that he's had, all the way through to not performing on that big Habib card, coming back as like a welterweight as well. So he's really meandered his way around. It's good to see him settle. I never know how he made a lightweight when you look at him now. He's a big old boy. So it's a great opportunity for him to ride some momentum. He did cancel himself out of 2020. I think he set his stall out early. So this is a good time for him to get back. But things that you guys might have seen was him dotting around the hotel, picking up all kinds of information from like Big Nog and DC. So he's got a real thirst for it. And you could see that hunger already. And on the other side, you've got, next to Cowboy, one of the most active competitors that we've ever seen. Flies under the radar, perhaps because he's steady. Got up into the top 5 around, what was it, like 2017? I think he got as high in the top 5 and people were looking at him as maybe challenging for that title. So there's not been a great deal of peaks and troughs at welterweight in 2020. So these guys can really set the standard for 2021.
I agree. Last thing for me, I want to ask you about maybe some other fighters in the card. I know you do a lot of production work behind the scenes, research. I mean, I think a lot of us are all focused on ABC in the first fight, and of course everybody's talking about the main and co-main at 257. But what are some storylines on that Wednesday card? Are there newcomers? Are there names that we need to pay attention to, or stories that you unearth that you think fans might be interested in hearing about?
Yeah, let me get my fight card out for you. Well, Umar Nurmagomedov, who we haven't seen yet, coming and making his debut against Sergey Morozov, he's got like 800,000 Instagram follows. Not many people make a debut with that kind of following. That feels like a lot of pressure, but he shares that similar mindset to a lot of the other guys in that camp. They don't put too much stock into that, but I want to see how he performs because those guys have trained together. They have had the kind of most prestigious titles in Russia in different organizations. So now it's kind of that organization versus that organization here on Fight Island. So I think that's very interesting. Mike Davis versus Mason Jones is a fight of the highest order. Mason Jones coming over as a 2-weight champion from Cage Warriors. Only Dan Hardy and Conor McGregor have done that before. He's an interesting cat. I went down to Wales, sat down with him. I think that interview's now available on UFC.com for people that want to get to know him a bit more. But very professional, very handy. But Mike Davis, man, that guy is like former pro boxing experience who can get it done. Trains with some of the best guys in the world as well. So that one on the prelims, or those two on the prelims, that they are ones that you cannot miss. I was very happy to see Lezez versus Alves moved on to this card as well. The Middle East is right now, I mean, we're here, so MMA and the UFC is very much in the column inches out here, but he is a phenomenal athlete. That performance that he put on Fight Island first time around made me sit up and watch. So going up against a guy who offers that submission threat, but that powerful style that we see from Wally Alves, who I think a lot of people when he first came through thinking he might be a champion one day. So he can maybe get back in the running, but he's got a really tough one ahead.
So we were just informed before you came in that you received the contract extension with the UFC.
Yes, sir.
Was that something that you obviously you were talking about it, but that you saw coming? Was there any fear that wouldn't happen, or?
You never know. I did ask the question to one of my bosses. I'm like, so my contract, are we? Do you think we're going to be good? Do you think we're going to be negotiating? And I got a smile back, but it was a pandemic as well. I didn't put too much into that, but no one really wants to be negotiating a deal in a pandemic, do they? So listen, all I can ever do is try my very best, work as hard as I possibly can, try and add value. And if the UFC like that, they'll hopefully carry on. And I think I'm in a good spot. Been here a while now, so just got to keep on keeping on.
Do you have any particular goals you want to accomplish during this upcoming period?
I'm very lucky that I work with some bosses that continually challenge me in different ways. So I'm doing the producing work that I was just talking to Jon about, and I like doing that. The Countdown guys have actually been in contact with me as well. So in a few different departments, people from the UFC are seeing that I can help them out. So I'm always looking to do that. I'm not doing so much writing anymore, but then I might be doing some more of these long form sit downs, which is something I'm really passionate about. It's all about storytelling. So if I can do that in as many different forms as possible, then I'm hitting my overall overarching goal, which is storytelling in mixed martial arts.
Anik was in here before, and he said that this upcoming week, and I know you have a bit different roles, but he said it's going to be the most challenging of his career with just all the events and all the prep that's needed. What about you? Is this the same for you, you think?
I don't. No, I haven't really thought of it like that. It just is what it is, and I'd rather just kind of get my head down with it. I'm only calling one fight though, and I live a little bit closer to the Middle East, so maybe the body clock situation isn't as much of a challenge. But so I respect that for people that are coming in from far away points. But really, I don't work as much as what Brendan and Anik does, so I can prepare a little bit further out and at least get some foundations down. So I'm not feeling that pressure quite as much.
How excited are you for the debut of Mason Jones? I mean, dismantled Adam Proctor and Joe McColgan. You had 2 Cage Warriors fights. How excited are you for him?
Yeah, I'm having been down to Wales as well and seen how his team operates and the way that they do things, that puts you closer to the situation. So naturally, I can't help but be really excited for all of those guys, because it's a very small part of the world and they're in a very small part of Wales. And the amount of support that they have is incredible. I mean, you look at Jack Shaw as well. They actually have a gym in the same town but don't train together. But I went and saw Jack at the same time. You got guys with tattoos of Jack Shaw's on fire on their head. This quiet little guy is garnering that kind of attention, and it's not massively different for Mason. And Mason is very good at generating a big fight feel at the same time. It feels like an occasion when he was walking out at Cage Warriors, the way he would hold that flag with pride tied into his walkout music. And like, he takes risks in his fights as well. So I'm excited to see how his skills measure up at the very highest level. It doesn't really get much tougher for a debut, though.
Yeah, I was about to say it's kind of a baptism of fire, right? It's Mike Davis, tough guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that went out to the Tiger Muay Thai trials. I think that's when he first really came across my radar, and we started seeing how good he was. And I think he actually was the first pick and got through. But yeah, he's legit, man. He's like someone that we should be keeping an eye on for in the next year or two for breaking into the top echelons of that division.
Are there any other names in the UK not in the UFC that fight fans should remember?
Yeah, my teammate Sam Patterson, I've got to give him a shout out. He's doing really good things at the moment. He's a phenomenal athlete, very unique, like 6'3", 79-inch reach, and he's 155. Like, he's phenomenal, and the workload he puts in is crazy. And I think right now I'd probably have to say Jake Hadley. He just picked up the flyweight title at Cage Warriors. He did the same at EFC. Went to Birmingham to see Leon, and Jake was there as well. Those guys in Birmingham are on a really good flow of momentum. They do things different to other cities in the UK as well. They very much come together, and I think he'll get signed. And he's a very unique individual. He can sell a fight, so I think you guys would enjoy talking to him.
What do you make of Leon and Hamza being rebooked a third time?
Well, I mean, you've got to sympathise with the matchmakers as well through all of this, right? It looks like it's doomed, but let's hope that's not the case. So those guys as well, that Leon just needs to fight. Coming from the UK, I can't see many other fighters that have been quite as unlucky as Leon. It is a product of circumstance largely, and he needs to get out there and just prove to everyone why we've missed him. But at the same time, Hamzat Chimaev was a guy that I saw on the mats with Alexander Gustafsson years ago when he was like 2-0 professionally, and I just knew he'd be here. He's different. I'm not saying that he's going to walk through Leon, by the way, but for the amount of experience that he's got, what he's showing us already, he looks like he's far ahead of that curve. So that's a great fight.
Jon, is there anyone in the UFC commentary broadcast staple that you haven't worked with yet that you're looking forward to or would like to?
I haven't worked with Rogan. That would be interesting. I don't think that will ever happen, but you never know your luck. I haven't worked with Dominic, so that could be interesting as well. I think otherwise, I've worked with everyone else. I think.
You mentioned Umar Nurmagomedov, Sergey Morozov fight, and everybody obviously expects Umar to follow the example of Khabib and fight similar style. But did you get to realize that he's way different?
Not at all. He's nowhere near that kind of style. Yeah, he's very much a striker. So it is, and I think that's great, right? Because otherwise he's just going to be carved into that groove where everyone just thinks he's a version of. But there are tools that he has picked up, obviously. I think his dad put him into Muay Thai, first of all, and his uncle, Abdul Manap, was in the city centre, the capital city. And eventually he went down there and he started picking up a lot of these wrestling looks, and judo, I think, was something that they added in as well. But yeah, he's got it, but he chooses to be quite dynamic on the feet. And that's a heck of a fight.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well,
Great. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Thank you very much.
John.
Comment.
Welcome back to Fight Island. Do you keep asking for these assignments, or they just decide they're going to send you as far away from home as possible?
You know, Zach Candido really likes to keep me busy and keep me working, and I'm down for it. You know, it's fun once you get through the quarantine, right? I mean, once you go to Vegas, you quarantine in Vegas, you come here, you quarantine for 48 hours. The room that I'm in, I can't complain. I mean, I could do laps around my room if I had to. I certainly did them in the parking lot before we left the beautiful Holiday Inn Express in Las Vegas. So, you know, but now I'm out and I'm feeling a little less stir crazy. So things are good.
Yeah, I know everybody's excited to get back to work, and obviously it's kicking off with these great events. The big difference, right, is the fans back in the building. That's what I think everybody's excited about.
Yeah.
Does that do anything for me? Obviously, you've been in the center of the cage, you know, really soaking in. As a commentator, do you hear it? Do you feed off that at all? Or
yeah.
Is that silly to make that connection?
It's been so long since we've had it that it'll probably kind of catch me off guard a little bit to hear them responding and not just me and whoever I'm with screaming at the top of our lungs. It'll kind of muffle us a little bit, which helps us to kind of. I don't like it when the fighters can hear everything we're saying. They've got their job to do. They should be listening to their coaches. And I feel like once they put the plexiglass up, that did mute a little bit of hearing exactly what we were saying. I'm excited to have a crowd back. And if moving forward, if this is the only place that's going to have crowds, you're going to see a lot more fighters wanting to come here. They won't care about sleep deprivation. They'll want to come here to have that energy. It really does make a big difference for them. And yeah, I think it's fun for us. Everybody gets energized when there's people there.
I was gonna say, I feel like during this whole pandemic thing, like we tried to look at the positives of what we could. I think we needed it. You know what I mean? So we're like, oh no, it's great. You can hear the corner better.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but what do you think? I mean, you've been in there, right? You felt that adrenaline. You felt that sharpness. I mean, now that we've kind of got two options, and we'll probably be seeing a little bit of everything. I mean, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing that when fans aren't there?
Come on. I mean, we don't want to not have fans, right? I mean, will we deal with it? Yeah. Will we press forward? We did. And that's what Dana and the UFC kind of were the first ones. You know, he got us out there. He got us working. He got fights on TV and, you know, held up his end of the deal. And it was interesting. It was a little experiment. We all found cool things to pick out of it, hearing the shots more, hearing the corners. But at the end of the day, we want to go back to having that crowd. You know what I mean? We want that energy in there. And having fought in it, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad it's an experience that I got to go through. But if you gave me two options, I'm picking the crowd every time. I need my brother in that audience. You know, I need him being nervous and half puking to make me feel calm as a fighter. So.
No question. Because I know we got to fight a lot of fights before we get to the pay-per-view, but we've got you here, so we got to ask you about the lightweight fights. Main and co-main. Let's start with the co-main. I mean, obviously Chandler, a guy that I don't know that if you watched much of him before he came. to the UFC,
of course I have. Yeah.
So I mean, what do you think? Obviously, he's in a big spot here. He's got a tough challenge, but I mean, he seems to be world class. I mean, what do you think about this matchup in the co-main?
Yeah, I mean, I do think he's world class, and I think he's gonna do fine. But I think having Dan Hooker as the debut is tough because there's a lot of other matchups, like he even said himself, that would have been a little bit easier for him because of the length, because of what Dan does so well. And Mike's a wrestler, and he's going to try to level change at some point. And Dan just times those knees so well. And I was able to avoid them when I fought him. Even Poirier was able to avoid most of them because we're a little taller. But I think he's only 5'8", 5'9", so he's down there for those knees. But he's so strong, his endurance. The guy works like a maniac. If you ever follow his Instagram, the strength and conditioning stuff that he does is pretty insane. So I think he's going to do fine. I don't see it being a quick finish. I think they're going to go to war, and I think it'll be a perfect test for him to kind of show, is he going to be ready for that title shot and moving forward up the ranks, or does he have to go back and start beating up some of the guys in the lower end of the top 10 or maybe even the top 15? Because I think there's plenty of guys that he will just be able to kind of roll through, but that top 5 is murderer's row, man.
Have you had a chance to talk to Michael Chandler yet?
Not in person, no.
But like Zoom or anything like that? Or?
No.
No?
No.
Well, I'm curious. So you haven't had a chance
I'm sure I will.
Yeah, you haven't had a chance to speak to him. But I wonder, I mean, this guy's been at the top level for another organization, right? But when you come into the UFC, even if it's not 20,000 people, right, it's still the UFC, right? I mean,
and he will have a crowd.
And he will have a crowd. So I mean, is this? We hear people, no, it doesn't bother me. A cage is a cage. I've been doing this forever. It's all the same. But what do you think? I mean, he seems like a pretty mentally strong guy overall. But, I mean, is this going to be a difficult assignment no matter who the opponent is?
He's feeling it. No matter what he says, he's feeling it. It's not only because he's going to the UFC, right, but because you've come in as this hot prospect. You've come in as this former champion from Bellator, another organization that's, kind of trying to rival with us. And I think everybody knows that we've got the best guys in the world. There's just no question about it. I watch a lot of other fights. I watch other organizations, and I watch the guys that I compete next to, and we are the best in the world for sure. And I think he knows he's got a tall order literally in front of him in Dan Hooker. But I think he'll fit in just fine, man. I think there's so many good matchups at lightweight that even if he takes an L in his first one, we've seen that happen to guys before too. We've seen that happen to Eddie Alvarez. He came in and he got thrown in there with Donald Cerrone, right? But look at what he did. Eventually became champion, knocked out RDA. So I think even if it's not a great showing this one, he'll get his bearings. But I do think there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I think he will be feeling that. And your first one is the Conor McGregor card. I mean, that's a lot for guys that are in the organization for years being on that kind of a pay-per-view, and now suddenly you're debuting on that in the co-main event. But if it goes well, can't ask for a better platform.
No doubt. And you mentioned Conor, so let's talk about McGregor and Poirier, right? Like, obviously, everybody's talking about where they both progressed since they first met, right? But there's been a lot of discussion going into this about the mental side of it. Cormier has talked about it. I've heard Kavanaugh talking about it. I mean, it just seems like the mental. So what do you think? I mean, is focusing on the mental side of this key and breaking it down, or is that something that we in the media make too much out of? It's more about skills and development? It's
always about skills, but I think the mental part of this game is the most important part. At that level, with main event status, guys have held the belt, fought for the belt. You're good. Your skills are there. What sets you apart at that point, at that tippy top of these divisions, is your mental fortitude, your toughness, your durability. And we've seen Poirier show his heart recently. I mean, really put it on display in his fights. And Conor, I mean, we just see the way he's talking, the way he's training. He looks to be in the best shape of his life. He's taken that time. And for him to make the money he's gotten, the success he's gotten, to want to come back and still fight, I think shows where he's at mentally. So I can't wait. I really can't. I think if that can get out of the first round and we don't have a knockout, I think we're in for quite a battle between those two guys. But he says it's going to be 60 seconds. So I hope it's not. I want to see more than 60 seconds. But, I mean, with that left hand, it could be 20 seconds.
No, it's exciting for you. Last thing for me, obviously you've got some work to do here and things, but
Yeah.
when you see these high-level lightweight matchups and everybody talking about it, I mean, you start thinking, where do I fit in there, and what's next for me? I mean, are you painting yourself in this picture at all?
I mean, I'm always, you know me. I'm always down for whatever comes my way. We're still waiting to see right now, but obviously I'm still in the game. I'm still fighting. My back's up against the wall a little bit for myself in my career. I know there's some controversy behind one of my fights, and then the last one, obviously, I took on 5 days' notice, but it's still a loss. It's still 2 in a row. I think it's the second time that I've been on a 2-loss skid, and the last time I came back with a vengeance. So hopefully I can muster that up and get up there. But I'm not there yet. I can't throw my name into the top 5 with those guys quite yet, because you got to win a fight.
Are you commentating the UFC 257?
Yeah.
Are you expecting another middle finger?
Man, I don't know. I was talking to my producer that, we're going to have to do fighter meetings, and hopefully we can get through that without any German comments.
I was going to say, you can ask him why he thinks you're German.
Well, my last name is German, right? My dad's side, I hate talking about this with people that aren't American, because I know I'm not Irish. I'm not German. I'm not Italian. I'm not Swedish. I'm American. I get that, okay? I also did not give myself the Irish Dragon nickname. As a matter of fact, I fought against it for the first few fights of my pro career because I freaking hated it. I thought it was stupid. It got put together because I did karate. Lyoto Machida was one of my favorite fighters, the Dragon. And then this guy was like, well, you're Irish, the Irish Dragon. And he started saying it on a YouTube video. CFFC got a hold of it when I was fighting for them. And they were like, they just called me that the one fight. And it stuck. So I'm not trying to claim any heritage and this and that. Obviously, I'm of Irish descent. You can take one look at me. You can also see the German in me and my better jawline than most of the Irish. But, yeah, it's silly. And he's poked fun of me on social media and then deletes them. And it's just, I think he's just fucking with me, to be honest with you, He's like that. He's not an idiot, man. He'll poke at anybody in case you climb the ranks and you're next. He's already won a guy. He's like that.
Do you have any intention of asking him during the fight meeting, like, so why?
No, I know why. Because I'm calling myself the Irish Dragon, and he's like, well, your last name is German, so what the hell are you talking about? So if I ever had to fight him, maybe I'd come out as the German Dragon for that one, just for fun. But yeah, but it's all good, and I don't think that's going to come up in fighter meetings, but we shall see.
After your last fight, even on the broadcast, it was clear that you just had this crazy motivation based off your own performance. I know before that fight you didn't know where you were.
Yeah.
Motivation still there, even like a.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can look at me. I'm staying really lean. I'm staying in shape, and I think the combination of finding something new to focus on for a while really motivated me again, and made me miss MMA, made me miss fighting. But with everything that's going on, it's still hard for me. It's still hard for me to trust going into gyms, and because I have all this work as a commentator too. So let's say I go into the gym, I catch COVID, and then I can't go and do my broadcast work, and then I make no money. A, I'm not fighting, and then B, I'm also not broadcasting. So I'm just being very careful at home, training mainly with Sean Brady, who's a UFC welterweight, who's going to be, in my opinion, top 10 this year coming up. He's got a fight March 6th. So I'm telling you guys, this kid is the strongest kid that I've ever trained with in my life. So keep an eye out for him. He's fighting Jake Matthews March 6th. So that's going to be one hell of a fight. So yeah, a lot of pad work, and then tons of triathlon training still. My foot's a little sore, so not so much running, but tons of bike and swimming. Yeah, I got a bike in my room with a trainer that this bike shop in Abu Dhabi hooked me up with through the guys at Zwift, which I've talked to you guys about before, which is like an online cycling running game that you basically, all your powers are registered, you're racing other people, and it's up in my room right now. So as soon as this is done, an hour ride in today. So it's supposed to be 2.5 hours, but I've got obligations for work, so.
Well, you're not the Nate Diaz mystery opponent.
No, man, my God. I've had so many people tag me and saying UFC in the works, Paul Felder versus Nate Diaz. I'm like, when are they going to call me and tell me about that? Because you want to talk about getting motivated and excited. I would absolutely love that fight. And like Hooker even said about it, I'll fight him 85, 205, doesn't matter. That's a fight you take. Nate's a legend at this point, you know. I would love that fight. But no, that's just not me. I wish it was me.
Who do you think it is?
I don't know. I mean, I know Oliveira said he didn't want to fight Gaethje, right? He wants to wait. Maybe Justin. I have no inside information on this, by the way. But I don't know. I don't know who it would be. What do you guys think? It's not me, right? So we know that it's
Well,
not
you ruined
me.
our theory.
Yeah, I know. Did you guys think it was maybe me?
It was either you or Justin. Yeah.
So there you go. I'm thinking Justin, but if he slips on a banana peel and can't do it, I'd be down.
5 days.
Not a fuck. Listen, that was definitely a one-time thing. The moment was right. The stars lined up, and we took that one. But I even look back on it now, and I'm like, I would never do that. Like, I don't do that. Like, I'm a creature of habit when it comes to training camps and being diligent, getting my weight down, and yeah, let me go cut 25 pounds in a few days and then fight 5 rounds. It's not. Never again.
Were you surprised your post-fight speech became such like instant legend?
Yeah, I thought people were going to hate on me. I thought the guys on the card that missed weight were going to start coming at me. And I know Eric Anders actually reached out to Eric Nixick, who was coaching me that night. And he's like, man, Paul's making me feel bad about this. I'm like, good. Well, that's the whole point, right? I mean, you guys are all studs. Just, you got to just learn how to, you suffer in the cage. You got to suffer during that weight cut too. It always sucks. And you also can't go tell doctors, hey, I feel sick. They're going to send you to the hospital. You don't think I felt sick? I was dry heaving that whole night doing that weight cut. So it's like, you got to keep certain things to yourself while you're cutting weight. Just bury it inside. It'll affect you later on. 20 years from now.
How did Dana convince you to take that in 5 days then? Tell us about that then.
Well, so when they called me, it was Sean talking to Brian Butler, my manager, and I was going back and forth with Brian. He's like, listen, you have to give me an answer and be ready to back it up, because if I go to Sean and start negotiating for you, they're going to expect you. If they give you what you want, what are you going to do then? So, obviously it was a better financial deal than it normally would be. Nothing crazy, but it made my life a lot easier that night. And just more guaranteed money. You know what I mean? I knew I was showing up. I was going to get paid no matter what happened that night. And they know, I think, moving forward, the UFC knows if you're going to pay me, I'm going to show up no matter what. So you throw a little extra money my way. It's not like I'm going to go in there and coast. I'm going to go in there and try to fight and win the whole time. So it wasn't that hard of a negotiation. And I knew that if I could pull it off, it would be some legendary shit. You know what I mean? I thought about that. I thought about my legacy. But I also knew that if it was going to go bad, it was going to go real bad. You know, if I went out there, miss weight, and then RDA knocks me out in 30 seconds, I'm hiding in a cave for a few months.
You brought your stuff out here this time then, I guess.
Huh?
You brought your gear with you this time.
I'm cutting weight just in case. No. Hopefully, God, I hope not.
I mean, moving forward from here, what's like left for you in terms of like the fighters that you're targeting? Because you talk about the top 5 being killers and stuff, but the next fight being crucial too.
Yeah.
So where's that kind of put you? You looking at the latter end of the top 10s maybe to push forward?
Yeah, anybody in the top 10, I think is somebody I would consider. But there's some guys up there too. You know, there's obviously Al, who's been out for a while, and I know he wants to come back, and we've been matched up a few times before. Who knows what Tony's going to do if Nate comes back and he doesn't get the fight that they're talking about. There's a lot of fun matchups, but yeah, I mean, I still want it to be in the rankings in a position where a win is going to set me up for an even bigger fight. So if I go down and fight the, number 15 or somebody out of the rankings, even a win, people are going to be like, oh, okay. And those guys are just as tough. It's just they don't have the number next to their name. But yeah, I need to go out there and perform in my next fight and not worry about getting the top 2 guy, top 3 guys. It's not going to happen, first of all. And second of all, I need somebody it's in a similar position where they're going to go out and perform, and one of us will move forward and one of us will take a step back.
Ultimately, if you could have the apex, would it be maybe the McGregor fight or Diaz? Like, what would be the dream scenario for you to get to? Or the title, I guess.
The title, for me, those big fights, and obviously the Connors and the Nates and all that, it's financially I'll take that any day of the week too. But as far as goals, the only thing really missing, I've had 2 main events in 2020. That was a big goal of mine, right? It was to get on the poster, prove that, I've established myself as a marquee fighter. Done that. I'm a full-time commentator. I've done that. I've got a job with the UFC. I've kind of put myself out there. Now, the only thing that's really ever missing that I would kind of look back on my career and be a little sad is that if I never even had the opportunity to kind of put myself in that position for that title. And you guys have said it time and time again, the only reason that I stick around and take these shots and get beat up is to try to become the best. So that's, man, just to even get in there with that belt on the line would be, I could live with myself after that. I can live with myself no matter what. I've put it on the line every fight, but that would be like, I really accomplished something. And to win it, then we stick around and make some real money for a while, and I'll try to snipe off some low-hanging fruit if there's any out there. You gotta pull some. We've got some champions that have been able to pull that off, but at lightweight, I'm like, I'll take the number 13 guy. Let's give him a shot. Let's give him a shot. Paul, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Man earned my respect.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Going off the rankings and possibly fighting back and stuff, Michael Chandler said the only fighters that asked to fight him were you and Dan Hooker. Do you think people didn't want to fight him because he wasn't ranked, he's making his debut, and it's a risky fight? Yeah.
They know the challenge that he presents, and he doesn't have the ranking, so if you lose to him, he just takes your spot and you get knocked down, right? But for me, I just looked at it like, well, he's a pretty big name coming in, and he's had some absolute dog fights in the past. I like what that fight would have done. And I know my teammate Jared Gordon, my buddy, he's training with Mike down in Florida now, and he's like, please, just why are you asking for this fight? I was like, dude, I didn't know you guys were going to become friends in the last few months since you left, training at Duke's with me and started going down there. So he didn't want that fight at all. So I kept teasing him that I think it's going to happen, man. I think they're going to give me this fight. And he's like, what the fuck? So, but yeah, I liked what that would have done for me. I think that would have really set me up in the lightweight division if you take out a guy like Chandler. But yeah, I see why guys are a little reluctant to take that fight.
And what do you think Charles fits in all this?
Oh my God.
You were the last guy to beat him.
Listen, that win ages so well for me, doesn't it? I mean, I'm the last guy to beat him. Every time he fights and just absolutely smashes somebody, I'm like, I always put out a post of me elbowing him in the head and being like, Charles, congratulations, my man. That was a really, really good fight. And I have nothing but respect for Charles Oliveira and what he's doing. And I think he's really earned himself after that last win. I don't know if he'll get the title shot like he wants, but he really does deserve to be fighting the next guy in line to get that shot. I can see why he would want to wait, but man, I don't ever want to fight him again just because if you can walk away with that one right there, it's good. Because he almost subbed me badly in that fight too, if you guys remember.
What have you made of his progression in particular, like the last 2 fights? I mean, against Kevin Lee, his striking, he just looked as if it went to a completely different level.
Yeah, I think he finally really focused on strength and conditioning and striking. Because he was never a bad Muay Thai guy. Like, he always had good knees, good kicks. I think he's just trusting it now because now what are you going to do? Take him down? If he starts beating you up, you're going to take him down? It's like, well, good luck with that. So now I think he's finally really trusting that striking. And I think he's got the cardio and the endurance to kind of back that up. Because, for example, when I fought him, he was a bat out of hell. Came at me, kicking me, took me down. Way stronger than I thought, too, being a 45er moving up. That really threw me off. So when you see him in there with these guys like Tony, and he's kind of controlling them, he's way stronger than I even gave him credit for. And I think he's built on that even more after that fight because he gassed out, and that's ultimately how I got the finish. Because I felt him kind of wilting on the ground because he throws up so many submissions over and over again. If you don't get them, kind of breaks you mentally and physically a little bit. But I think he's kind of checked those boxes off. And I follow him on Instagram and stuff, and you see him always doing sprints, doing pad work, sprints and pad work, lifting weights. So I think committing himself to that end of the game has really helped him out.
I feel like he used to be a front runner. Like if he was in front, like you know what I mean. Like,
he would smash you, yeah, get you, catch you.
As soon as you make him question himself, like he would break.
Anthony Pettis did it to him as well when he fought him, and a lot of guys, yeah, if you got through that storm in the beginning, the tide would turn, and
I don't think he does that anymore.
no, now he's scrapping. He's scrapping now. Yeah.
So after feeling his strength, you see that arm bar that Tony got.
I mean, you can say whatever you want about Tony, but that dude is a fighter through and through. I mean, I don't know what I would have done in that position. First of all, I have no flexibility in my elbows. So my arm would have snapped and popped and been twisted around my back. So I wouldn't have had a choice. The ref would have stopped it. But, I mean, the durability and the toughness mentally on that guy is insane. Insane.
You have a triathlon coming up in March, right? Are you still?
I'm supposed to race, Challenge Miami. It's a half Ironman in March, but we'll see. We'll see if it's still on by the time it comes around. I don't know with everything that's going on. So far, I haven't gotten any notifications that it's off, and hopefully I can get my foot rested up and get back to running a little bit. But right now, I think I pulled a muscle on the side of my foot because I run like an idiot, and with no form whatsoever. Just tell me to run 2 hours, I'll run 2 hours, and I'm probably hobbling like this the whole time. But hopefully it happens. If it doesn't happen, there's one in St. George. Is that in Wyoming? Is there a St. George in Wyoming? Utah, right? Yeah, I'm gonna. That's another one I'm looking at, because the guy that I kind of look up to as a triathlete, the guy Lionel Sanders from Canada, that's his favorite course, and he's like, you get your ass down over there, and I was like, it's at altitude. He's like, it's not that much, you'll be fine. I'm like, you're a professional triathlete, bro. I'm gonna be puking off the bike and not rehydrating. So we'll see. I'm either fighting or doing a triathlon. So yeah, we'll see.
Russell Westbrook said what changed his career was relearning how to run properly.
Yeah, and I have been trying to. Like, I really have. I watch videos on my form, and I'm more on the midfoot and like the ball on my foot. I used to run just stomping on my heels and just pushing forward, and now I'm trying to get some proper form. But the bike is where I really feel I could do damage in a race. Not with any real triathletes. Maybe the 50-year-old guy next to me, unless he's been cycling since he was a kid, then he'll smack me. But yeah, the bike is the funnest part for me right now, because it's just, and that's what I'll continue into my MMA training. I'll ease off. It's like, say I book a fight, I'll ease off of the running a little bit because it does a lot of damage to your joints and stuff. But that bike, you can do so many different workouts, so many different ways, long workouts to get the fat down, to get your weight down, and then, VO2 max kind of workouts where you're just, I did a workout the other day where I was the whole time just drooling because I couldn't get a proper breath in while I was doing it. So obsessed with it. Obsessed.
I was just talking about your record earlier. You alluded to the Hooker fight, and everyone saw that a different way. The split decision losses on your record, there's like 4 of them out of 6.
Yeah.
Like, how anxious are you when it goes to the judges? Like, what's your feelings on those situations?
Well, let's be honest. One of them was a gift from God that it was a split decision against RDA. I mean, that was not a split decision. I got handled. I mean, I put on a good performance for what I did, but when I heard that, I was like, I'm going to sneak out of here because he's going to want to fight me again if I pull off this decision. But yeah, that's where when people criticize me, it's like, man, you don't really beat me. You just kind of make it to the bell and have outpointed me. If we went, like, look at all of those split decisions, right? Add 3 more rounds onto those fights, and who do you think wins? I'm asking you dead honestly, who do you think wins all of those split decisions, even that last one? Give me 3 more rounds, and I'll finish him. Dan, give me 3 more rounds. He's done. Ross Pearson, definitely 3 more rounds. I love Ross, but, I feel like I should have won that fight, but I took that one on stupid notice after the Edson fight. So, and the Edson fight, another one, nothing but love for Edson. But if we had 2 more rounds, he's a little tired in that fight. So. Well, that one I might have lost, right? Because even though he was tired, I had no arm. It was, if I had thrown any more spinning back fists in that one, it might have just started dangling from, completely. But, yeah, so, I'll always look back and, I fought some of the best guys, and nobody really, Trinaldo was the only one, and it was because of a giant gash that he put in my head. So I'll take it.
So is it fair if we say Paul Felder is calling for 8-round main events?
Oh, God, yeah. My mom will kill me. She'll be like, you're going to the hospital after 3 sometimes. What do you need 8 for? I'm like, well, I'm going to beat them, Mom. She's like, yeah, and you're going to be the one in the hospital. You'll end up knocking that guy out. He'll get scanned and be fine. You'll be the one with a punctured lung, a broken arm, and some stitches in your head. So, but yeah. But I still feel fresh. You know, I don't feel like I've got any kind of damage. I know there's been some stuff in the media recently with other things. And, yeah, I'll know when I've had enough. I'll know.
Did you read that Spencer Fisher article?
I looked into some of it, yeah, and it's really sad, man. But we do know as fighters what we're getting ourselves into. You know, it's a contact sport, and there's plenty of concussions from what we take. But I always tell my family, I'm like, you know, if you ever notice anything, if I ever seem like I'm slipping, and do not hold back, tell me, because I'll walk away right then and there. I'll hang up the gloves because I got a daughter, and I want to be talking to her. So, and dementia runs in my family, so I don't need it to get kick-started. Anyway.
All good? Good. Perfect.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Sorry I rambled on a little bit today.
All good.
Got this coffee in me now. Out of quarantine. I'm like, I don't want to go back to my room right now. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank
All
you,
set?
sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, bro.
You're good to go.
Thanks, guys. See, this is what I'm talking about. Look at these guys. The best.
That's a wrap, right?
See you.